to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Deep Sleep Stories welcomes you to a world where a lighthouse on a lonely cliff keeps watch through every night and every storm. You settle into your bed, close your eyes, and imagine the steady beam sweeping across a dark sea, guiding ships home. In this tale, you will visit a place where waves whisper and winds sing, and a brave light shines without ever sleeping. Breathe in slowly and let the scent of salty air fill your mind as we begin our journey together. On a rugged coastline where cliffs plunge into the restless ocean, a lighthouse stands tall, its stone walls weathered by decades of wind and spray. The tower rises above a field of wildflowers and hardy grasses, its lantern room encased in glass, encircling a powerful lamp that turns with the rhythm of a heartbeat. The building is surrounded by low outbuildings, a keeper's cottage with a red roof, a boathouse with nets hanging from hooks, and a small garden where herbs and vegetables grow sheltered from the salt. The sea stretches to the horizon, a dark expanse dotted with white caps. Waves crash against the rocks below, sending up plumes of foam. Above, gulls wheel and cry in the gray sky. The air tastes of salt and mist, and everything is alive with the hum of wind and water. Even from far away, ships can see the lighthouse's beam sweeping across the waves, a comforting presence in the shifting night. Inside the cottage lives an old lighthouse keeper named Elias. His white beard and calloused hands tell stories of a lifetime spent by the sea. Each evening, just before sunset, Elias climbs the spiral stairs of the tower, his boots echoing off the stone. He opens the heavy door of the lantern room and tends to the lamp with the care of a gardener. He polishes the glass and checks the oil, winds the mechanism that turns the great lens. He listens to the wind for any change in tone, sensing whether a storm is brewing. When the sun dips below the horizon, Elias lights the lamp and its glow blooms like a slow sunrise within the room. The light begins its rotation, casting a broad beam that pierces the twilight. He watches it for a moment, making sure the mechanism is smooth, then settles into a chair with a thermos of tea. He spends the night in quiet vigilance, reading old sea tales, writing in his logbook, and occasionally playing a few notes on a battered concertina. He knows every ship that passes by, not by name, but by the cadence of its horn, the sound of its engines, the way it rides the waves. His life is as constant as the beam, and he takes comfort in the rhythm. The lighthouse was built long before Elias was born. It was constructed by hands, now long gone, using stones hauled up from the beach and timber from forests now grown quiet. People of the region tell legends about how the first keeper would not leave the light, even as storms raged around him. One tale says that on a night when the sea churned as if it meant to swallow the shore, the light went out and a ship nearly foundered on the rocks. The keeper, who was ill at the time, dragged himself up the stairs and relit the lamp with shaking hands. As he turned the crank to set the lens spinning, he said a prayer to the spirits of the sea and promised them that as long as he lived, the light would never sleep again. The storm passed and the ship was saved. Since then, generations of keepers have honored his pledge, tending the light through wind and calm alike. Fishermen out at sea say they can hear whispers in the beam on certain nights, as if voices from long ago still ride the light, guiding them home. The machinery that keeps the light turning is as mesmerizing as the beam it projects. At the heart of the lantern room sits a Fresnel lens, its concentric rings of glass bending and focusing the light into a powerful beam. Elias often runs his fingers along the smooth grooves, marveling at how this delicate apparatus magnifies such a small flame into such a strong signal. Beneath the lens, gears turn slowly, driven by a weight that descends through the tower like a pendulum clock. Every few hours, Elias must rewind this mechanism by cranking a handle, raising the weight so that it can descend again. The sound of the gears is a gentle tick, a metronome that measures the night. In the early days, the lamp burned oil and Elias would carry heavy cans up the stairs. Now the light is electric, powered by a generator in a shed outside, but the lens and the gears remain. They connect the lighthouse to its history, and tending them connects Elias to all those who came before him. He takes pride in understanding every part of the system, knowing that each piece, though simple on its own, works in harmony to keep the light moving without rest. The headland where the lighthouse stands is home to more than just the keeper. Seals haul themselves onto nearby rocks to rest, their sleek bodies shining in the glow of the rotating light. They bark softly to one another, their sounds blending with the steady murmur of the sea. Seabirds nest on the cliff faces, puffins with bright beaks, shearwaters with long wings, and gulls in constant motion. Their calls are part of the lighthouse's soundtrack, a chorus that changes with the seasons. In spring, chicks peep from hidden crevices, their tiny voices like whispers. In autumn, the air fills with the deep honks of migrating geese. A small cat, a tabby with white paws, lives with Elias in the cottage. She patrols the grounds, leaping over rocks and chasing insects in the garden. At night, she sits on the windowsill, watching the beams sweep across the dark sea, eyes gleaming like two small moons. When storms come, she curls up on Elias's lap as he sits in the lantern room, purring in time with the rotation of the light. The sea surrounding the lighthouse changes its mood as often as the sky. On calm days, it is a mirror reflecting clouds, and the lighthouse seems to float on a sheet of glass. Dolphins play just offshore, their bodies arcing through the water like needles through silk. When the wind picks up, the waves grow, rolling in from the open ocean with more force. Storms arrive suddenly, darkening the sky and turning the sea into a writhing mass. Rain lashes the windows of the lantern room, and lightning forks above the waves. During such times, the beam is more than a guide. It is a promise. Sailors trust it implicitly, and Elias feels the weight of that trust. When the storm passes, stars emerge one by one, and the sea settles again, sighing and breathing like a sleeping giant. Phosphorescent plankton sometimes light up the waves with greenish light, mirroring the rotation of the beacon. This dance of light and water makes the lighthouse seem like part of the cosmos, connecting the sea to the stars. The lighthouse is beloved by the villagers who live in the small fishing town a few miles inland. Every year they hold a festival in honor of the never-sleeping light. Lanterns are hung from trees, and paper boats with candles are set afloat in the harbor. Children craft tiny models of the lighthouse out of clay and paint them bright white with red roofs. At dusk, the townspeople walk to the headland carrying baskets of food, and they share a meal with Elias, eating clam chowder and fresh bread while seated on quilts spread over the grass. Music fills the air as fiddles and flutes play tunes passed down through the generations. When the sun sets, everyone watches as Elias lights the real lamp. They cheer softly as the beam stretches out to sea, a shared symbol of protection and hope. The festival reminds them of their connection to each other and to the ocean. Even those who have never sailed feel something stir in their hearts when the light turns, like a memory of journeys they've yet to take. For Elias, the isolation of the lighthouse offers more than duty. It offers space to think and dream. During long nights, he sits at his desk, writing in a journal made of thick paper that smells faintly of the sea. He writes of the weather, noting wind direction and wave height. But he also writes of memories and thoughts that come with the sound of waves. Sometimes he recalls his childhood in the town when he would sit on the beach and watch his grandfather sail out each morning. Other times he marvels at how the stars appear the same even as the world changes. He wonders about the lives of sailors who see his light but never meet him, and he imagines their journeys continuing beyond the horizon, the repetitive tasks of tending the lamp, filling the oil reservoir, checking the gears, cleaning the lenses, become a meditation. Each action is deliberate and soothing, grounding him in the present while his mind drifts gently through memories and hopes. One autumn night, a nor'easter rises, bringing heavy rain and ferocious winds. The sea roars, throwing spray high against the cliffs. Elias senses the storm's approach long before it arrives. The barometer falls, the wind shifts, the air smells metallic. He secures shutters over the cottage windows and checks the garden to make sure nothing can blow away. In the tower, he reinforces the shutters and tests the lamp's rotation. As the first gusts hit, he feels the tower lean slightly like a tree in wind, but trusts its sturdy masonry. The rain hammers on the glass lantern room, making it impossible to hear anything else. Elias sits in his chair, lantern light reflecting in his eyes, and watches the beam continue its steady sweep. Somewhere out at sea, a ship signals with its horn. The sound comes faintly through the roar, Elias answers with the lighthouse horn, a low, comforting moan that carries through the gale. Hours later, the storm passes and the stars return. The lighthouse has not faltered. It has kept its watch. And when morning comes, Elias steps outside to find everything washed clean and sparkling. Even the wildflowers seem to bow in gratitude. Once, many years ago, a thick fog descended so suddenly that even the lighthouse's beam struggled to penetrate it. The sea and sky blended into a gray shroud. Elias heard a ship's bell clang repeatedly, its sound muffled by the heavy air. He opened the window of the lantern room and strained his ears. Realizing the vessel might be too close to the rocks, he fetched a hand-operated foghorn and gave several long blasts, a code telling the ship to turn to starboard. Moments later, he heard the answering toot of the ship's horn, followed by the hum of engines changing direction. He peered into the fog and could just make out a dark hull shifting away from danger. Later, he read in the newspaper that a cargo ship had narrowly avoided running aground thanks to the lighthouse. The article praised the light, but Elias knew it was the communication between him and the unseen captain, two people connected by sound in a sea of mist, that had made the difference. He kept the clipping in his journal, not out of pride, but as a reminder of how important attentiveness and quick action can be, even in a life otherwise defined by patience. Over the course of a year, the lighthouse experiences every face of nature. In spring, the cliffs bloom with sea thrift, tiny pink flowers that dance in the breeze. The air smells fresh, and the seabirds return to their nests, greeting Elias with familiar cries. Summer brings long days where the sun doesn't set until late. The nights are short, but the light still turns, casting its beam over calm seas where fishermen haul up nets, brimming with silver fish. In autumn, the wind carries the smell of wood smoke from the town, and leaves from the single rowan tree near the cottage blaze red before falling. The sea takes on a deeper hue, and storms become more frequent. In winter, snow occasionally dusts the cliffs and the roofs of the buildings. The lighthouse looks like part of a snow globe, its lights swirling within as the world outside grows quiet. Through all these changes, the lamp continues its rotation, and Elias continues his vigil, marking the seasons by the angle of the sun and the flight patterns of birds. Daylight hours at the lighthouse are quieter, yet filled with small tasks. After extinguishing the lamp, Elias descends the tower and makes breakfast, often porridge with berries and warm bread. He listens to the morning radio, catching the weather forecast and news from the mainland. Then he walks the grounds, checking fences, trimming the small hedge around the garden, and gathering eggs from a pair of hens that wander freely. He spends time repairing nets and maintaining the boat he uses to row to town when supplies are low. In the afternoon, he mends his socks, writes letters that he will send on his next trip to the village, or carves small wooden figures, dolphins, ships, birds, which he gives to visiting children during the festival. These tasks anchor the day, giving it shape and purpose. When the sun starts to lower in the sky, he prepares a simple supper, often fish with potatoes and herbs from his garden. The The smell of cooking drifts up the tower as he climbs to light the lamp once more. His life follows the flow of natural light and the needs of the lighthouse, a rhythm that never feels rushed and always feels complete. Every so often, the solitude of the lighthouse is broken by a visitor. One winter, a young woman named Marin arrives from the mainland with a backpack full of notebooks and a head full of questions. She is an artist drawn by the idea of a light that never sleeps. Elias welcomes her, showing her to a small spare room in the cottage. Over mugs of hot cocoa, she tells him that she paints not landscapes, but the feeling of places. The way a breeze curls around a window, the way light makes a room feel safe. She spends her days wandering the headland, sketching the lighthouse from different angles, sitting on rocks to watch waves crash and clouds roll. At night, she climbs the tower with Elias, fascinated by the machinery and the sound of the lamp turning. She asks him about his life, and he tells her about nights when the sea was like ink and nights when it gleamed like molten silver. Before she leaves, she paints a small picture of the lighthouse at dawn and gives it to Elias. He hangs it near his chair in the lantern room, a tiny dawn he can look at while waiting for the real one. When the lighthouse beams across the night, it illuminates more than the sea. In the grassy field around the tower, small creatures go about their nocturnal activities. Rabbits nibble on herbs in the garden, their ears twitching at every sound. Hedgehogs shuffle through fallen leaves in search of insects, their spines casting long shadows. Barn owls glide silently overhead, eyes trained on the ground, white wings almost glowing when they pass through the beam. The tabby cat prowls with them, sometimes pausing to watch a mouse dart into a hole or to sniff at a patch of dew-wet clover. She is a gentle guardian of the grounds, ensuring that no creature disturbs the peace within. At times she sits beside Elias in the lantern room, her tail curled around her paws, and watches the stars with him as if she too understands the importance of their shared vigil. As the years go by, Elias grows older and thinks about the time when he will no longer climb the spiral stairs. He trusts that another keeper will take his place, someone younger who will learn to read the language of the sea and the sky. He thinks about all the beacons around the world, lighthouses perched on islands, on sandbars, on cliffs like this one, all shining through the darkness for those who need guidance. He wonders if those keepers sometimes think of him as he thinks of them, a network of watchers linked by beams of light and common purpose. When the nights are especially clear and the sea is calm as glass, he imagines the light from his lamp, traveling not only across water but across time, connecting generations of sailors and keepers. This thought warms him in a way no fire could, reminding him that his nights spent in solitude are also nights spent in community with people he may never meet. On nights when the moon is full, the lighthouse shares its domain with another brilliant presence. Moonlight spills across the water in a wide, shimmering path, and the beam of the lighthouse crosses it like a hand extended in greeting. The ocean reflects both lights, creating an intricate dance of silver lines and glowing ripples. Elias often steps out onto the narrow balcony that encircles the lantern room to watch this interplay. He feels the cool night air against his face, hears the gentle slap of waves against rocks, and observes the silhouettes of seabirds gliding through the twin lights. The full moon nights are so bright that he can see far down the coast, the outlines of cliffs and beaches rendered in delicate monochrome. There is a deep peace in these moments, a sense that the heavens and the earth are in conversation. Elias imagines that sailors on faraway ships look up and see both lights and feel a connection to this place. These nights remind him that even when it seems the world is sleeping, there is beauty and movement everywhere, and the lighthouse is part of a larger, luminous tapestry. Sometimes, on nights when the sea is calm and the stars are numerous, Elias can hear distant sounds carried by the wind. Once, he heard the haunting melodic songs of whales far offshore. Their voices rose and fell like the tide, a slow, mournful music that echoed in his bones. He stopped his tasks and simply listened, letting the whale songs weave into the rhythmic turning of the lens. Another time on a spring night, he heard the faint drumming of rain far to the south. Before the clouds arrived, he could smell the rain, earthy and sweet, before it touched the lighthouse. These moments remind him that even in isolation, he is connected to everything around him. The light shines outward, but sounds and scents drift in, bringing with them stories from the vastness of the ocean. He receives them gratefully, as if each one were a gift left on his doorstep. As the night edges toward its end, the sky gradually brightens at the horizon, a pale line separating sea from sky. The beam of the lighthouse still turns, slicing through the dawn's early mist. Elias yawns and stretches, feeling the weight of many hours in the tower. He pours himself a last cup of tea and listens to the soft hush of waves easing up to the rocks. The tabby cat purrs from a corner, half asleep. He writes the final line of his nightly log, the weather, the passing of a single ship, and caps his pen. Soon he will extinguish the lamp, letting daylight take over the duty of illumination. Before he does, he stands at the window and looks out over the sea. The world is painted in shades of blue and rose, and the light has done its work. In your own mind, still nestled in your bed, you can feel the peace that settles over the headland. The beacon has kept its watch, and so perhaps have you, accompanying Elias in your imagination. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well, and let the memory of the lighthouse's never-ending light guide you into dreams